Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from this month's sponsor, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
If you're wondering about what you can do if you find yourself in an FCPA compliance action, check out the FCPA Survival Guide. It's my latest book. It's sponsored by Ethico, and in it, I take up and write the top 10 things you can do to reduce your overall fine and penalty if you find yourself in an FCPA enforcement action. So check out the FCPA Survival Guide. The Daily Compliance News for January 8, 2024, the How Corruption Works edition. And we begin with that story from Business Insiders, who has an article on Bonita Mercedes, a FIFA whistleblower and former head of corporate and public affairs at Football Australia. She played a key role in Australia's bid for FIFA World Cup, and she has helped expose the FIFA way of how FIFA contributes to corruption contributes to FIFA's decisions to award World Cups locations. Next up from Law 360, the court in North Texas has given the Department of Justice and Boeing until mid-February to rework a plea agreement in Boeing's 737 MAX criminal conspiracy case. This came after the parties reported they could not come to a conclusion or a resolution, rather, on the plea and the monitor criteria and court oversight. So once again, the Department of Justice is pushing this off to the Trump administration. It'll be interesting to see what the Trump administration does, if anything, around Boeing. Next up, Oregon, this comes to us from Reuters, has had a ban on secret recordings upheld by the Oregon Supreme Court. Veritas, an alleged free speech rights group, said that the policy did not violate free speech rights under the state of Oregon Constitution, and that Oregon has significant governmental interest in ensuring residents know when they're being recorded. So remember, even if it's a wiretap, you got to get court approval. Our next story comes to us from the Financial Times, which reports that the U.S. has imposed sanction on Hungary President Viktor Orban's chief of staff for alleged corruption. This comes as Antal Rogan, a longtime ally and prime minister overseeing state-owned media and part of the intelligence services, is accused of setting up, operating, and benefit a statewide system of corruption. Really no surprise that corruption would exist in strongman Orban's orbit, but the U.S. has sanctioned him. Once again, it'll be interesting to see what the Trump administration does with these sanctions and if they'll actually keep them in place. At the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.